All right, good evening, everyone. Calling the meeting to order. Regular meeting of the Fair Rent Commission for the town of Fairfield. It's a little past 7 on Thursday, December 12th. Going to just have everyone who's here say hi, say their name, just we have it for the record, starting with
Eileen Francis.
James Casey.
Then who's joining us remotely? Carl, you want to say hi?
Hi everyone, Carly Skadeke.
The doctor, you want to say hi? You can just say hi, doctor.
We're just introducing by name.
Can you hear us?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there. He's good. He's here.
Everyone's here.
Okay. All right. So skipping right down to our our third item to hear, consider, and approve the minutes of the August 13th, 2024 special meeting, which, believe it or not, was our last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Yes.
And we're gonna bump you up to from alternate to full since Doug's not here. So we have a first and second. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, meeting minutes approved. All right.
No caller.
No, that sounds good. Item 4 on our agenda, election of officers for this coming year. All right, well, I've served as the chair of the commission. I'm happy to continue to do so in the future unless somebody else wants to take on that responsibility. Anyone?
I move that you continue.
Second.
All right, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain, but the motion carries. Do we need a vice chair?
You should have a secretary, or you can have a vice chair. I mean, you can have both if you want.
Anybody want either the role of vice chair or secretary? We don't really have one right now.
I'm kind of your recording secretary.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
so don't worry about that. Mark's got that covered. Anybody, just in case, I get hit by a boss or can't make it, somebody can run the meeting.
Next year's a little sketchy.
Okay.
I'd love to commit, but my daughter's due in spring,
I
so
think you're an alternate anyway. So
Right.
that kind
it's
of
probably better I
answers.
stay where I am.
Eileen, Carl, Doctor, anybody want to be my
Wingman.
wingman?
If no one else is ready, I can do it.
All
Okay.
right.
Got it.
Thank you. All right. I'll put him forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries.
Hello.
Hi.
You're here for Sustainable Fairfield or no?
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're Maureen. Sorry.
Yeah, all right.
Hey, Maureen.
Hi.
I haven't seen you in a while, so hey.
Yeah.
All right, I'm also joined by Marie. No worries.
Rin, you just missed, you could have been the president.
Well, she's an alternate anyway, so I don't think she would have to worry about that.
Let me just double check to make sure your contact information is okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is going to be to approve the 2025 meeting schedule. Before we do that, Mark, so we have a date for January 9th, 2025. Do we have any pending business that would cause us to actually have that meeting?
No, not at this time. We have no pending complaints. So my recommendation is to establish a meeting schedule, file with the town clerk, and then if there's no business, I would cancel the meeting.
Which is, I think, what we've done
Yeah.
to this point.
Yeah.
And
Just need to be more on top of canceling the meeting officially.
yeah, right.
I could take that job. Okay.
Canceling?
I only ask because I know I'm gonna be actually on vacation on the 9th, but if we're not gonna have a meeting, then that
I
should be
don't
fine.
see a reason why we would have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So other than that, I'm fine with the schedule pending obviously people's conflicts and things as it comes up. Just we have a meeting, you get a sense you have conflict, just let us know. Chances are if we have too many people that can't make it, try after your schedule. But that shouldn't be a problem since we don't oftentimes have business. So anybody have any discussion on the pending meeting schedule, any changes that they need to have made, that they know right off the bat, or suggestions?
I just ran the second.
Yeah, I
Thursday
think
forward.
what Mark says, if something comes up, we'll have a meeting. And if nothing,
Yeah,
Anybody else?
I'm scheduled to be away the March meeting, but I'll certainly let you all know well in advance of that.
Yeah, maybe we'll have business, maybe we won't, but.
the other thing is if we have a complaint, we need a hearing. Sometimes our regular schedule doesn't accommodate the complainant, so we can always schedule a special meeting, and then I would obviously make sure that we have a quorum if we're gonna go forward with the meeting.
Everybody's been pretty flexible, and everybody's fortunately been pretty flexible that we've been able to get everything, so it hasn't been a problem, at least thus far. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else anybody else has to add about the meeting schedule, I'll put forward the motion to adopt the meeting schedule for 2025. Is there any second? Any second?
I second it. Eileen.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Good, okay. New business, item number 6. Mark, I want to turn it over to you. Maybe get your thoughts or comments as to how year 1 for the Fair Rent Commission has gone to this point, and then, suggestions for any changes or anything that you think the commission should be aware of, and then we can kind of go around the room and talk, reflect on how it's been for everybody else, but I'd like to start off with you, Mark.
I think it went pretty well for our first year. We had, I think, 5 complaints, only 2 of which went to the commission for a hearing. And the other 3 either were withdrawn or we were able to work out something with the parties. We probably received 4 to 5 times that number in calls, inquiries that didn't materialize in the form of an actual complaint. In fact, I was saying to Commissioner Francis this morning, or just now, that we had a call this morning from somebody who was asking about, my rent is this and it's going to this, is that fair and reasonable, and what are my options type thing. So we went through that with her. So it's our preference, obviously, to try to work something out between the parties. Sometimes it's simple as, in this case, we've said, hey, if your landlord is accommodating, as you suggest, why don't you just go back to her and say, this is a bit much. Can we work something out in between? And sometimes that happens, and other times it's more contentious. So then we get it. So it's manageable. It's definitely has put a strain on the office. I think, as I will be requesting some additional staff support through this budget. I mean, the commission, the boards last year in setting the budget for my office did recognize that I was picking up 2 additional commissions, this one and the Arts Commission. And, there's a level of work associated with that. So they did set aside some money. At my suggestion, I said, well, just keep it more flexible because we really don't know what the workload is going to be. And this was kind of the first year. So I didn't want to create more full-time staff positions if, we might need a part-time person here and a part-time person there, or a contract person. So in the end, I think it has worked out okay. I'm looking to solidify that for next year. I have a part-time housing person that I can then, pass things off to. I'm still coming to the commission meetings, but on a lot of the calls, I can ask Tom to intercede and do a lot of the legwork in terms of talking to the landlord and the tenant and seeing if they can work something out. So that was really helpful. And then when we get to a hearing, obviously there's an administrative stuff. We don't have formal procedures right now. At some point, we may want to consider them. I think it was right not to start off the bat with some kind of formal procedures, because then you're kind of tied to them. And people then say, well, you didn't follow, what you spelled out here. So I think we handled it fine, but at some point, we may need to formalize that a bit more.
Yeah, I think on that point, I think having maybe a couple more of these actual hearings go forward will give us a feel as to what's working, what isn't. We've had two, and that's, been helpful, obviously, but maybe a couple more just to see, because sometimes people have counsel with them, sometimes they don't. Sometimes, we had the one instance where, somebody's uploading documents, the day before, the day of,
Right.
and I can definitely see a procedure that we might adopt in the future where we say, okay, if you have a hearing scheduled, you need to have your materials uploaded at least, 72 hours in advance, so all the parties can see, have enough time to go through everything, or even more, depending on, what the situation calls for. But I still think at least we're a little too soon to kind of formalize everyone. We've been kind of having our sort of process where we let everybody speak, introduce themselves and what they're here to talk about. Then we go into evidence and we let them have a, closing argument. That's just the world that I live in as a lawyer, how a trial might go. And I think that's worked okay so far. I will note that the very first hearing that we had is actually up on appeal right now with the Superior Court, because one of the parties was unhappy with the outcome. So the decision is actually being defended by Phil Pierce, who's counsel for the commission. So that's yet to be resolved, or at least it's being appealed. But I feel like we did our job, at least at that point, and whether somebody's happy or unhappy with the outcome, it's their right to take an appeal. But certainly, I think as we go forward, if we recognize, maybe we should be formalizing things a little more, I think at some point we can put pen to paper and come up with procedures. But I want to thank you, Mark, for all the help that you've done to even filter out all the things that haven't gotten to us, to the commission. Because if you got from two hearings to 4 complaints to 4 times that in terms of inquiries coming in, I think first of all, it shows that people in the community know that this is a resource that's available to them. But also you're doing your job by making sure that to the extent people can, they come to an agreement or an accommodation without having to involve us. And sometimes they can't do that and they need us and we're here for them. But I think that's just a testament to all the hard work that you're doing. And so I want to thank you for that. And I personally, to the extent that you need us at the RTM or Board of Finance or Board of Selectmen or whatever other body to approve some sort of budgetary request, I'd be happy to support that.
Thank you.
And I know that those meetings aren't, having been on the RTM myself, I know that those meetings aren't fun to go to and they can last until 1 a.m. sometimes. But I'd be happy at 1 a.m. to talk about the need for, Mark to have some additional support for the Fair Rec Commission and other endeavors that you have. So I want to thank you for that too.
Appreciate that, Tom.
Anything else, Mark?
No, and I think the second hearing went better than the first one. It was much smoother. So I think as we go, it'll become more natural and we'll have a rhythm to this and we'll understand what we need to memorialize in terms of a process and what we don't. Even on the notice requirements, I've spent some time with Attorney Pierce is just say, well, do we need to send these things certified all the time, certified, regular mail, electronic? I'm doing all 3. There's a cost, it's not substantial, but it's also just a lot of paper flying in. So, but I understand, at some point we'll figure all those things out too, what works best for everyone. So I think it was fine.
All right, let's go around the horn. Any other comments, suggestions, reflections as to how the first few meetings have gone?
It was fabulous. I mean, I was just thought I'd listen a lot, but was participating in not what I expected. So I'm sure it'll gain popularity. Very curious if there's a revaluation coming up. Yeah, could trigger some agenda items depending on how things go.
Yeah.
So higher rents or higher value.
Yeah.
Right.
Just makes higher rents.
Yes, when I did, come on this board, Mark, I think you're doing a fabulous job. You helped me too with my rent, that it didn't have to go further. But I feel like we don't know enough about it. You said, I never got any of the rules or anything. And you mentioned maybe you were gonna have a lawyer in to
Yep.
teach us a
Thank you for reminding
little.
me. Yep, that's
I
one
know,
thing.
and you know,
I have that on my list here to talk about.
yeah, and I think we, you know, like you know everything, being a lawyer, I can hear you talk. And like, I wanted to show you my two, my two leases in the last 2 years. And they each raised me like 27%, which I'm not paying, and 27. And that was like almost 300. So I did go to him and I say, why do you keep raising 27%? He says, because we're supposed to. So I feel they're ignorant and they don't know what's going on. Each year, they've been raising me 27%. And are you a?
Commercial.
Okay,
Not
that's a
residential.
little different. It's not the same, no, it could be. And he says, we're supposed to raise you 27%. No, they're not supposed to raise us 20. I mean, what's the purpose of moving into fair housing and you're jumping me up to everybody else?
Yeah, there's been a little, I mean, there is an outreach component, an educational component, both for tenants as well as landlords. This is fairly new for Fairfield. I mean, it's a state law that's
Yeah.
been in existence for a while.
Under the, the
We-
government.
Do have a range of people in terms of their experience and understanding of what the law permits with respect to deed restricted affordable housing units even. And sometimes it's just easier to pass the buck and say it's somebody else's
Yeah.
fault. They're forcing me to do it because they don't wanna hear the,
They
you
don't
know,
do that.
they wanna be the bad guy.
Where
So,
is he getting his, you know,
well, we've explained to all the property managers and we'll continue to explain to property managers that what the state sets is a maximum allowable gross rent.
right,
You have absolute discretion to charge up to that amount, but not beyond it. So they set the rents. We do not set the rents. for
yeah, I
them.
know that, yeah,
The state establishes a maximum gross rent for any affordable unit based on the unit type and the income threshold that applies. But what I've heard, what they've said is the same thing. What they've said back, and I've heard this from other tenants is, well, the town told me that's what I need to charge. No, that's
Yeah.
not right. And I've said, that's not correct.
and that's what my building, he thinks that they're saying Fairfield sets it,
Mhm, yeah.
they have nothing to do with it.
Well, I've talked to them and explained that to them multiple times. But
Yeah.
again, I think there is a little bit of, I don't want to be the bad guy, so I'm just gonna blame somebody, the higher
Yeah.
authority.
So how do you get the message across? I do have seniors that are living in the loft one, and they raised her 27, that's like almost 300.
I have two observations. One is some communities, and this might be things that we might want to consider, assuming we have the support resources to do so. But, you know, we probably want to look at some additional outreach and education, both to landlords, property managers, as to what the law allows and does not, and then also to tenants. So we haven't done a lot of education outreach. It exists on the town's website, and there's information out there in the ethosphere, but we haven't gone to people and said, these are your rights. Like some communities have a pamphlet, for example.
That's what I was wondering if.
And they do
okay.
mailings out to the property managers, say, this is the law. So we could do that. I don't think it's a heavy lift, but it does require a little bit of resources behind it.
Okay,
The other thing would be the orientation program. And so maybe one of these meeting nights, not when you're away or when you're away, that we can talk to the attorney and say, these are our meeting nights. Would do any of these potentially work for you? And would you do an hour,
yeah,
session for us? And you could even do it remotely. So there's that. And there's also a fair rent toolkit, which I can certainly I think I posted it, but I'll share the link with all the commission
I have
members.
something,
Which I
yeah,
find very helpful myself, because I'm
that
not
you
an
keep
expert.
going back, yeah. Okay, but as a tenant, that's what, you know, like, and some seniors are afraid to do anything, they just pay the rent. A couple of my friends too, I feel bad, they just pay it.
Yep.
You know, which, how many years can you keep paying it though?
Well, I
You
assume
know.
at some point, if you can't, then,
That's when they'll be knocking, they'll be knocking, okay,
Yeah.
that's,
yeah.
I think we need more information,
Absolutely. Thank you, Alan.
okay.
Marie, anything you want to add?
No.
Carl, anything you want to add?
Not necessarily. I think I'm on the same wave of just how we do outreach. So if there is some type of mailing or some type of pamphlet, certainly there's a lot of different types of renters in our town, and I think that there's value in explaining to people what are their options when they have an issue, especially for our younger renters that we know are coming in and out constantly within our town, and thinking through how do we just build community there, especially for young families or students, so that we can make sure that they know that there's not adversity from the town to support them when there's an issue, when there's a lot of communication that's going out there, that may make certain individuals feel alienated.
Good observations. Thank you, Carl.
Mhm.
Dr. Ibrahim, anything you want to add?
I will just repeat what you said, Mr. Chairman, thanking Mark about solving more issues than the hearings we had, more than double the hearings we had. I'm sure this takes a lot of effort from him. The other thing, the two hearings we had, I really like the structure you created, Mr. Chairman, that everyone present their case and then there is questions, and then we have the closing remarks and then the decision. I was thinking if you want to structure that and put it in writing, so here is the structure of the hearing, and we give this to the sides before they come, so they kind of prepare themselves. So I know exactly what I'm going to do, and I am supposed to answer questions, and I'm supposed to put closing remarks. Maybe that will help them to prepare more instead of kind of being on the spot, if you think this would be useful.
No, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And do we vote, do I remember we voted in front of the people?
did.
I was uncomfortable a little with that.
Unfortunately, we have to, so that's part
Oh,
of the
you have to?
transparency of the process. They get to see us deliberate, they get to see us vote, and so they
Okay.
understand why we came to the decision that we did. Because, for example, our first hearing, you know, the tenant ended up taking an appeal from our decision. What we say, you know, the decision that we come to, you know, gets put into a sort of a judgment. I don't know if you see this, and it's something that I execute, and I think Mark, you do too, or maybe it's just me. But it becomes something that could be taken to court to be appealed if they don't like our decision. So the process that goes into that decision needs to be public. So if there is a problem with it, that can be sort of flagged for the court to say, you know, I didn't get my fair shake or whatever. And it's just for transparency purposes, and you know, we're a town body. So unless we are in some sort of like executive session, which I don't think we have, you know, they get to see everything. And maybe it is uncomfortable, obviously. You know, I don't like to sit across from someone and be, you know, having to tell them like, yeah, your rent is going up, or no, Mr. Landlord, like you're a greedy pig, you know, but sometimes it's helpful for them to hear that, obviously, and hear what's going into it, so that in the future, those two parties know why we came to the decision that we did, and maybe, you know, they set their expectations accordingly next time.
I think the only, and this was particularly true, I think, with the first one, which was our first hearing, but we do need to be mindful of what the standard is, the finding that we have to make, which is that it's harsh and unconscionable. That has to be documented. When you make a finding that the rent is too high, it's because it's harsh and unconscionable. And so we have to be very mindful of the statutory language that's there and make that part of our record of findings. So I did incorporate that into the final decision,
Right.
but I know we were struggling a little bit to articulate that as we deliberated.
Using the magic words.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think the second one, we were very clear. And of course, then you also have state statutes that are different than fair rent that deal with elderly folks as protected class. So
Right.
the standard is slightly less stringent. That's whether it's fair and reasonable. So
Exactly. All right, anybody else have anything else to add?
So I'll come up with, maybe I'll talk to the attorney and suggest a couple of these dates, and see what his schedule allows, and then we
I
get
would
back
be
in touch
very
with
happy.
folks.
thanks.
And then, we can certainly, there's a couple of examples of a flyer, that I've looked at, which just basically captures what the Fair Rent Commission does, and it's the things it has to consider, to make a decision. And then we can decide how best to disseminate that.
All right, any other new business? Hearing none. I want to thank Mark again for all of your hard work, and hopefully we don't have another meeting because you're so good at your job that you have better than reach consensus and don't need our.
I wish that were the case.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Happy
I
to.
second.
Okay, we got a first and
Got it,
second here. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you,
Happy
Mark.
holidays.
Yeah.
See you.